But we begin this morning in Ukraine, where schools are closed in case there are new Russian air attacks. Just let that sink in. They close schools just in case a Russian rocket attack happens and falls on the heads of those young children. British intelligence says fighting has intensified in one area of eastern Ukraine, with Russian forces shelling the town of Voldemar overnight. Officials say Russia may launch new attacks there. Tomorrow marks 1 year since Moscow's invasion of the country. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Charlie Daggett is in Kyiv, where he spoke to the city's mayor. Charlie, hello.
Hello, Vlad. When Russia first invaded Ukraine, it was clear that taking over Kyiv was the ultimate target of Russian President Vladimir Putin. The mayor still believes that to be the case. I sat down with Mayor Vitali Klitschko to talk about how the war has affected this city and its residents. In the early days, as the Russians were advancing, were you concerned that the city was under threat?
We actually was very surprised. In next day after the invasion is how quick Russians coming to Kyiv. They was actually very close.
Were you ever concerned for your own safety? Let's face it, you are a target.
Listen, it's every citizen of our hometown was target. Every citizen. Every citizen of our homeland was target.
It's been difficult in a city this big to try to keep it running. So what are the challenges you're facing now?
I tell you, it's not a special operation, it's not a war. Because the war have clear rules. Never touch the children, unguilty people. But after the reckless attack, drone attack to our infrastructure, I have clear understanding. Russians need Ukraine. Without us, without Ukrainians. They want to kill every one of Ukrainians. They need property. It's not war. It's genocide. It's terrorism.
The Russian military and President Putin tried to capture Kyiv, the capital, before. Do you think they're intent on trying it again?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Putin won't hold Ukraine. Putin want to rebuild Soviet Empire. And Kyiv, capital of Ukraine, symbolic city, the heart of the country, was and still target of Russians.
He's trying to make life unbearable for Ukrainians.
People not afraid, people not depressive, people angry. I listened 1,000 times from civilians. They told better without electricity and water than with Russian soldier. People is angry and don't want to give up. In this moment and many moments after that, I'm proud to be Ukrainian.
People in America and people in the West are starting to be tired of this war. They see the killing that's going on. They see that Putin will not be stopped. He's going to continue to accelerate. How do you address people, critics in America and others who say we can't continue putting all of these weapons and all of these resources and all of this money into Ukraine? We have to find a peaceful solution.
This war already touched everyone in Europe. This war can touch everyone in our world, everyone in our planet. Please don't forget, Ukraine have 5 nuclear plants. One of them biggest in Europe. In this case, this war can touch everyone in our planet. And that's why everyone in our planet have to do everything to stop this senseless war.
And that is a sentiment we hear often. This isn't just Ukraine's war, and with the amount of support from America and its allies, that's now become abundantly clear. What's also clear is that there's no end in sight. Anne-Marie and Vlad?
All right, Charlie, so we are now 1 year into this war. Just break down for our viewers what stands out the most for you of all the things you and the rest of our colleagues who've been covering this war since the Russian invasion have seen.
Well, you know, in the early days of the conflict, in the early days of the war, we were standing here in Kyiv, and there was every expectation, including from American intelligence, that the capital itself would fall within 96 hours, and it would just be a matter of weeks before the whole country would fall. Zelensky was even given, you know, an emergency exit out of here. So in the first couple of weeks, we were concerned for our own safety. We were certainly concerned for the people of Ukraine, that this is just, going to be a steamroller event for Russian forces. And yes, they had rallied. They not only fought back and defended the capital itself, pushing Russian troops away from within 15 miles of the city. And it's hard to believe now, but that is what was going on then. Airstrikes and cruise missiles that were raining down on the city, and even managed to push back what Russian forces had gained. Now it's become something of a war of attrition, but they're entering a dangerous new phase. They've had the sort of weaponry that they needed in the early days, which are really only shoulder mount weapons, anti-tank weapons, anti-aircraft weapons. Now they've got long distance HIMARS. They've got the artillery, which has been extremely important. Tanks are on the way here, but they are facing an almost inexhaustible supply of Russian forces and equipment. So we're entering a dangerous and bloody phase of the war to come, especially when spring arrives.
You talk about an inexhaustible Russian military. It certainly seems, though, like the Russian military is sort of hanging on as well. We've talked about ill-equipped and ill-trained troops. We've talked about sort of the gains and then losses by what was supposed to be a formidable military. And now we're hearing about the possibility of a spring offensive. But some people say the spring offensive has already started. Some people say, no, it hasn't. What's happening right now in this war?
Well, I wouldn't say the spring offensive has happened in any meaningful way. We've been out on the front lines, and there are sporadic attacks. We all know about what's happening in Bakhmut, where they are just pummeling that area. But if you consider that the front line runs for hundreds of miles, and the Russian forces have got the artillery, and most importantly, and this is really critical, I know I keep saying it, but it's what they're saying to me, and it's what they're saying to everybody. It's what they're saying to President Biden. It's what they're saying to NATO members. They need ammunition. Yeah, they need tanks and they need aircraft. Now, all that would be great, but they really need ammunition for the artillery, because the Russians, although they are throwing tens of thousands of people into this fight in what both sides have described as a meat grinder, they are ultimately effective. If you continue to throw that many resources, that many soldiers, that much artillery, that much firepower, that much air cover, that much long-range weapons that they've got, it is in President Putin's favor as long as this goes on, and hoping that the West, that Ukraine, that NATO will tire of this fight. And that's what I mean about digging in. Yes, the spring offensive is absolutely going to come. Is it going to happen in March or April? Are the tanks going to be here in time? Will they make a meaningful contribution as they move into the fire set that they've already got here in terms of the artillery and ground forces? That remains to be seen, but there will be fighting ahead. We've already seen it in places like Kupiansk outside of Kyiv, where the Russians are advancing. They've continued to take pot shots, as it were, in places like Kherson, which are Ukrainian-controlled areas in the Donbass region. They have the firepower, they have the range, they have the number of troops, they have the ammunition, and it is going to be a grind.
Charlie, thank you very much. We want to continue this discussion and bring in Ambassador William Taylor now to discuss the state of the war in Ukraine. He's the Vice President for Europe and Russia at the U.S. Institute of Peace. He also served as U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine under former President George W. Bush. Thanks for joining us, Ambassador. You heard Charlie say both sides describe this war as a meat grinder. I thought that was such a visual word to use. I've used the word stalemate. It certainly seems like that's what it looks like from this perspective. Does either side have the upper hand right now?
Emery, neither side has the upper hand right now, but it might be that this vaunted spring offensive that people are concerned about from the Russians has already started. And as Charlie just described, it's not all that powerful. The Russians have big problems, as you have pointed out. They have soldier problems. They've had to go to a draft. They've had to go to prisons to lure prisoners into the fight and then put them into this battle. And it's not a stalemate. It's a slugfest. Both sides are just beating each other up. And that then raises the question about how quickly this can end. The Ukrainians are preparing either a counteroffensive to after this Russian offensive is spent, or is fully in place, not very powerful, as I say, the Ukrainians are ready to fight the back. They're ready to mount a counteroffensive. They are preparing new military formations with these tanks that are already in theater. So they are preparing a counteroffensive, and if they break through, Anne-Marie, if the Ukrainians can break through the Russian lines, through this stalemate, through this slugfest, through this meat grinder, if these new units, mobile military armored tank units can break through the Russian lines, that can end the war sooner. That can end the war sooner in the favor of the Ukrainians. That can happen. They need the ammunition, as Charlie points out. They need the weapons. They need the tanks, but they can do this.
What about the fighter jets?
So the fighter jets are going to be important, but not immediately. The fighter jets can't be there in this fight. I'm talking about a spring offensive or counteroffensive by the Ukrainians to break through the Russian lines. And the fighter jets are going to take several months to get there, and the Ukrainians need to break through within that several months. They need to break through now in order to end this war sooner. Now, the fighter jets will be necessary because if the Ukrainians win and are pushing the Russians back, and that ends this phase of the war, the Russians will still be back. They may take a year, 2, 5 years. They'll be back. And when they fight again, when they invade again, that's when the Ukrainians will need those fighter jets. So they need the fighter jets, and they need to start training on them right now because they're going to be necessary to defend themselves after the victory.
So, Mr. Ambassador, I was having a conversation earlier this morning with General H.R. McMaster, who, as you know, served as National Security Advisor. And I asked him how it would be possible for Ukraine to win the war if they're not actually pushing into enemy territory, in other words, pushing into Russia. And he suggested that what might happen is that the Ukrainians would ultimately kick the Russians out of Crimea. And then what would happen is a sort of situation that we've seen with North Korea and South Korea. In other words, the war isn't over, but the shooting has stopped, at least for a time. Can you envision something like that? And what would that mean for NATO and its allies?
I can, Vlad. I can envision that. I think General McMaster is right. That's one scenario. One scenario is, as he's described, the Ukrainians push the Russians out of their country, including Crimea, including Donbass. They push the Russians out. At that point, the Russians may come to sit down to figure out what they can salvage. They'll be out of Ukraine one way or the other. Either through military means or through diplomatic means, through some conversation, some agreement that they will leave eventually Crimea and all the rest of Ukraine. So that could happen. The North Korea, South Korea scenario is a possibility. The East Germany, West Germany is another model that we have tonight. But Ukrainians just want the Russians out of their country. And they're willing to do that militarily. They're willing to do that diplomatically. They're willing to take some time. Their military action will be immediate. The diplomatic may take longer.
All right, Ambassador William Taylor, as always, sir, we thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Vlad.